10 Years Gone, Led Zeppelin. One of my top 5 favorite Zeppelin tunes, and I think Jimmy Page is one of his finest guitar solos, if not his finest. The arrangement is just stunning, and we'll check it out today. So I was doing some research on this tune, and it's been said that there are as many as 14 guitar tracks on the album version. And as I was sort of recording the demo for this performance, I was messing with different sounds and different layers and stuff, and I wound up by coincidence just getting to 14 guitar tracks. Now I'm not saying that I've figured out exactly how Jimmy Page had recorded all those things, but it was funny that it just happened to be that way. And you know, the thing is, though, let's talk about this for a second. When somebody says something like that there's 14 guitar tracks on a song, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's 14 individual parts being recorded. No. One of the things you find when you do this kind of stuff is these are a good friend of yours, headphones, good quality headphones. And the reason I say that is, even if you have great monitors, when you hear headphones, you can really hear the stereo separation. What I do is, when I put my headphones on and I listen to the original version, I'm always taking one ear off, and then listening what's on this side, then reversing it, and so on. And I've discovered a few interesting things by doing that, particularly with Jimmy Page's guitar recording techniques. For example, a lot of times what you'll hear is that one side of the stereo field will have just the guitar on its own without really any effect on it, and the other side, the other channel, will have the reverb. So you can it sounds most of the time like the guitar is like a mile down the road being recorded, you know, from here, and because there's that much reverb on it. But the other signal is pretty dry, and so when you combine those two things, you get that big sound, that big ambient kind of sound, but you don't lose any clarity in the reverb, you know. So that's one of the things. So right there, that's 2 tracks, right? And as you go, you can do other kind of recording techniques, like in certain sections where it gets louder, you don't necessarily just take the fader and move it up louder, although you certainly can do that. But what you might do instead is to double the one part, and sometimes even more than once. So right there, if you have one recorded part which has its own 2 tracks, now you double it, now you're already at 4 tracks. You see how quickly this can add up to 14. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what I think is going on, you know, guitar wise in the song. So the main theme of the song, Jimmy Page played on a Stratocaster, and I believe it was the first time with Led Zeppelin that he recorded with a Strat. And it really, when you listen through the whole Physical Graffiti album and you get to side 2 and 10 Years Gone comes on, all of a sudden that guitar tone is so different than anything that came before it. And it's got this rich, clean, warm sound to it. And it's this part. And we'll talk about that chord in a second. But so one of the things, though, and I want to make special note of this, that when we were talking about recording, all this little home electronic gear, especially like what I have, which is pretty low budget, could never compete with vintage analog gear in a proper recording studio, you know, that costs thousands and thousands of dollars. That stuff just has a magical component to it that you can't replicate that with electronic stuff and software or whatever. You just can't. But that being said, how many of us, you know, on a budget could actually afford to go to a real studio and take time and do this kind of thing? Not many, right? So it's great to be able to have that at home at our disposal, because you can learn a lot from doing it, and it's a lot of fun, right? All right, so let's get into the guitar arrangement. So we have this. He's got an A chord. He's got this little melody that runs throughout the theme, and it's such a simple little thing. We're in the key of A, and he's starting on the third, C sharp, C sharp, B, A, B, A. It's like a kid's nursery rhyme. But it's really pretty, and it's memorable. It sticks in your ear. And now the cool part is that he then harmonizes that last A note with this chord. Okay, let's check out what that is. Have you ever heard, I know you guys have heard this many times in songs, where you have the one chord going to the 4 minor. It's got that bittersweet sound to it, right? And so in the key of A, that would be A to D minor, right? Well, he plays a chord inversion of that D minor. So he's got the A in the open position that we all know, and then does this. From low to high, we have A, F, which is the third of D minor, A, D, root, then the open E string, which is the 9th. So we have like a D minor add 9, or D minor 9, you could say. No 7th in it though. And that gives it that big melancholy thing. Now, the other cool part about this, though, it shouldn't be overlooked, is what John Paul Jones plays on the bass. One of John Paul Jones' simplest bass parts in Led Zeppelin on this tune. But man, just to go like this and play the low F there instead of going up to the D. So what you get there, I mean, technically now that makes it an F6 chord, right? So you have an F, an A, an F, A, and a D. D is the 6th from F. And if you add the E note to it, also you get like an F major 7, add 6, right? Or like maybe an F major 13. Either way, what it does, that F note on the bottom gives it a sort of lushness that makes it less harsh sounding, less mean sounding. In other words, if he went like this and emphasized the root note D for D minor, I mean, then it's like, it's really sad, really dark, right? But by going to the F instead, it's more open, it's more ambiguous in a way. And I think that's really the key to making this tune partially of making the tune what it is, what it sounds like. All right, let's move on. So we do that theme a few times. All right. Now we're going to go through a circle of chord progressions here that are pretty unique, not diatonic to A or anything. We're going out now and just so we've got a D sharp diminished chord. Now, I've seen guys play it up here. It doesn't matter where you play it. It's the exact same notes. Doesn't make a difference at all. I find it easier if I'm on an A here to just move my fingers like that instead of coming up and doing a completely different shape. Either way. Now, that leads to an E minor chord. And I've also read a few things about how the root note's not in the chord. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The bass is playing the root notes anyway. If you play it on the guitar, it totally fine. Yeah, I mean, I play it that way. And in fact, I mean, it's just easier to play it because otherwise you have to worry. It's one more thing to worry about, not hitting the A string. I don't know. It's just easier for me this way. Okay, now why does the D sharp diminished, all right, work to get to E minor? Well, the D sharp diminished is an upper structure of like a B7 flat 9 chord, which resolves to E minor. So that's one way a diminished chord can work, a half step below whatever the next root note is. Okay, D major 7, C major 7. Now we're just open. We're out in like space now, kind of like just floating around. That's what this section kind of reminds me of, just floating around. You know, maybe like just sort of thinking back. I mean, the name of the song is 10 Years Gone, right? So, you know, this kind of conjures up sitting there and having memories and, you know, things like this. And one cool thing about major 7 chords, they're really easy to just move around. And they'll always sound like they kind of resolve. You could do it in a variety of like chromatic steps like that. And a lot of like, you know, like sort of modern soul music, you know, and all that kind of thing. There's a lot of this sound in it, and it just gives it like a really open, airy quality, and it's a fun sound to mess with, you know. And you know, if you go to Guitar Center and you want to impress the sales guy by not playing, you know, the intro to Stairway or something like that, play major 7 chords randomly, they'll think you're like a jazz musician, right? I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's keep going. We're on to the secondary theme now of 10 Years Gone. Now, it's true, Jimmy Page did have a drop D tuning on this song, so the fingerings would be different, but I'm going to show you first how you could just do it on standard. There's only one time in the song he plays that open low D note, and that's during the after the guitar solo. So, but for now, you could just do this. Okay, so E, F, A, C, D, F, E, D. And that's just a broken up arpeggio of the chord we had before. Major 7, root, 3rd, 5th, 6th, root, major 7. All right? And then back to an A chord. Now here's that theme. Right, so A, B, A, B, B, C sharp, A. And one guitar is just overdubbed doing that. It's actually 2 guitars. Right? And so, but one of the guitars goes. Okay, so we had an A. Right, A, G, B. So it's like a G over A chord. And then now with the C sharp in there, it's kind of like it's an A7. Right? Root, 7, 3rd. Which makes sense because now we have an F sharp and an A, which is kind of like this thing, a D chord in first inversion over A. So, D minor over A, right? You went from the major shape to the minor shape, and then back to A. Now, there's voice leading involved in all this. check this out. So if we're starting on A here, then we have a G, then an F sharp, then an F, then an E. So there's that descending line that you'll find in a lot of chord progressions. It's the same thing as doing like and you know that's in a lot of songs. I mean, that right there was a little bit from Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. It's been in a lot of music, starting, it was in classical music way before other folks picked up on it. But it's, you know, it's a sort of common thing. Not to take it away from the guitar, though, because on this particular tune, it's a unique arrangement. All right, so those are the first two themes of the song. Now, there's a cool guitar solo section, right? And what we do is we kind of change keys. We go from A up a fourth to D. We're starting on a D major 7 chord. Now we're going to break from the key for a second. We're going to play a G sus4 to a G. Then we're going to go to an E minor 9, G, D major 7. Okay. After the guitar solo, we have the heavy duty break there. Again, with drop D, I'm going to show you that in a second. But without drop D, just play power chords, G, A, and B. To D, right? But now, okay, here's our drop D. So now you can play power chords with just one finger, right? I lowered the string a whole step in pitch. So now, if I was starting on a G here, my G is really here now. Whole step higher, right? So, and there's your power chord. So, that's where the low D comes in. And then he does this thing. Okay, that's a cool backstrum thing by the bridge. We're getting an E, open E, open B, A, F sharp, right? So you're getting, it's like a D major 6, 9, which is a really pretty chord, but in the context of the song, I mean, he's got all that overdrive on it, and it really is a big sound, right? So. Cool. From there, we're going to go up now to another key change. We're going to go back to A, but we're just going to do like a sort of circle path. A major 7, D major 7, G major 7, C major 7. So if you're starting on 1, go up a fourth, another fourth, and then another fourth. And now, if you're still in drop D, you could do the main riff like this. So instead of going open 1, you go 2, 3. And so on, right? Now, I'm going to tune back up. And I'd like to just take a quick look at some of the phrases in the solo. I know this video is going on a while, but this is a tune that's worth it. So remember, we're starting on a D major 7. He's doing this little break. Beautiful pentatonic thing. So we're harmonized in fourths, and the main melody notes on top are D, E, D, B, A. But, right, okay, we're bending an E. Okay, up to like F sharp, and that's against the G sus4 and G. So we're gonna have this. Now check that out. D, B, G, just the arpeggio G. Right? That same kind of lick, and that is when he's on the E minor 9, he's emphasizing the 7, the D there. You could think of all these licks a lot like it's D major, right? But some of those things, it's not all pentatonic or anything like that. He's targeting certain notes based on what the chord is. It's done intentionally, right? I like that D, G, F sharp to resolve back to D major 7. So root, 4th, that classical cadence, right? Okay. This is a cool little. So B, D, B, A, B, A, but in 4ths again. C sharp. This is all against D major 7. Look at all those color tones. 6, 5th 6, major 7, right? Meanwhile over here, 3rd, 5th, 9th, 3rd, major 7. All right, he does that a few times, and then we're gonna we're on the E minor 9 now. Oh man, classic blues lick, but where it sits on the E minor 9, and then to land back on the D against the D major 7 like that. That just tugs at the heartstrings there. I mean, it's just perfectly placed, you know. Okay, then we're gonna have this little climbing lick. Okay, so starting on an E, F sharp, G, A, bend to B, D, and I love going from D to E like that. He just gives it a sweet. It's not a whole step, it's not really a half step, it's somewhere in between, because it's just that emotional, and then just lets it go like that. That's all feel. And Jimmy Page was a master at that. When he played all those blues licks, right, especially at a slower tempo like that, you think about a tune like Since I've Been Loving You, or something like this, any kind of ballad thing, he would let loose those licks, and that touch he had, it was great, you know. So okay, I love that. Now this is against the G sus4, G. We're bending G up to A, and then look at that, the interval of a 6th there, going from G down to B. That's on the G chord, right? See how all these, they're all chord tones for the most part. You know, the notes he's targeting to land on. Not necessarily the runs that are passing through, but his targeting notes are. All right, let's talk about this one, because I love this. This is against the E minor 9 again. And then he does this lick, D, E, that bend, F sharp, E, D, and then this. It's a minor blues, right? A, F, E, D. And that's against the D major 7. Now, if he had gone like this, no go, man. That ain't the same. That F natural right there. Brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, it's a simple concept, right? But it's played so just right. I mean, you can't lose with that. Okay, we've got some more of those licks coming up. And then we've got this little thing. And that's against the G sus. So we got pentatonic, D, E, G, A, bend up to B. All right. And then to end the solo, again, some of the tastiest licks are on that E minor 9 chord. Pentatonic B, D, E, F sharp, G, G sharp, E. Sorry, A. So it's just milking all that emotion right out of those couple of notes there like that. So yeah, you know, there's a lot to take in on this particular tune. Another thing is the actual arrangement of it. You know, I charted it out. I had always thought that while I could feel the time in the intro and verses there where there's no drums, but I thought it was out of time. I thought it was rubato, and it's actually not. There's strict time there. You could set your metronome to this tune, and what happens is we get a measure of 2, followed by a measure of 4, followed by a measure of 2, and then that 3-bar pattern kind of repeats. You could count it in 2 measures of 4, but because of where the chord change is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's hard to count it and play at the same time, but watch. 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 2, 3, 4. 2. And so on, right? I find it easier to count like that. That's the way I charted it out. So yeah, check that out too. I know this was a long one, but I think it's worth it for this tune. A lot of things to digest. And remember, take some of these ideas and put them in other keys. Try to make them your own. Remember, that's always the best thing to do once you've put the time in to learn a song in the first place. I hope you enjoyed today's breakdown. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel for more videos like this to come. Thanks for watching.